these guys just got their third consecutive Emmy nomination. Alright, so we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I also want to let you guys know you are going to have a chance at the end to ask your own questions. So if you do have a question, I believe there are microphones in the aisles. Yes, right there. So come on up to the front if you do have a question. Not yet, folks. Not yet. Seriously. Your enthusiasm is wonderful, but you're going to be standing there a long time if you do that.
Everybody slow down.
At the end, we will ask questions, and I'll give everyone warning, so don't worry about that. I want to start talking about the new season, and Jamie, there was something that people saw in the clip just now, but I don't know if they really had a chance to digest it, but it is the idea of testing whether you can supersize a Newton's cradle. And everyone knows what those, the executive ball numbers. Can you supersize that to epic proportions? So tell folks about that.
Well, this was a labor of love for me. I petitioned for this for quite some months. And it turns out that, this was to get supersized with wrecking balls, for one thing, which, was originally a commercial. And so we, of course, wanted to see whether that was possible. And so we tried to do that, and it was perfect for us because it involved scale experiments. We gradually work our way up. And it was pretty exciting even along the way. But when we took it to the final part,
as Jamie was getting interested in this, he started ordering ball bearings. And he started ordering bigger and bigger ball bearings. The number of Jamie's big balls jokes started flying around. It just became so commonplace. And the funny thing is that we were being so respectful of the idea that we didn't want things to not end up on camera, that almost none of them made it into the episode, or a few made it into the episode. But it's pretty much like everything was Jamie's big balls. We're going to film Jamie's big balls. And he ended up with an office full of like 6-inch, 30-pound ball bearings and every size in between.
Yeah, well, and it eventually, of course, worked its way to the full-size wrecking balls, but they don't use those things very much anymore. They have like hydraulic grabbers and they use explosives, which we know all about, but so it was quite a challenge, and I have to say it's something that you would only see that on Mythbusters. So who else gets to try to put together a half a dozen gigantic steel balls and make a Newton's cradle out of it?
In the clip, the ball comes apart. What's happening there with the clip when people see the ball is kind of coming apart?
Well, because they don't really make these things so much anymore. We found a place in the Midwest that had what we needed, sort of, but it was going to cost us about $10,000 just to borrow them, to ship them, because they're so heavy. And so we decided to make our own, and that was part of the fun.
Okay, and it didn't always work the way you...
No, of course not.
We can't give away the ending.
Yeah, well, you'll have to watch it to find out. But it was one way or another, it was very spectacular.
He always wants to give away the ending.
Tori, Brant, and Carrie, you guys worked on one that's coming up this season, and I want to read to people what it is. If a pigeon lands on the roof of a car, which is hanging precariously over a cliff's edge, could he provide enough force to send the car plunging over the side? Who wants to take it?
You've all seen that in movies, the car is just kind of hanging there, and the little tiny bird goes, phew, and everybody looks at each other and either tries to crawl to the back or, the car goes over the edge. So
the coyote looks at the camera.
Exactly. That was perfect for us.
Yeah, and then the thing is we were going to going to set it up and have it kind of done remotely. But then somebody had a great idea if we were actually in the car hanging on the cliff. And so we came up with this system where we made this huge ramp, so when the car did go over, nobody got hurt, but it was it was like a roller coaster ride every time we tested. It was kind of like Dukes of Hazzard. Tori and I are in the car, and suddenly it tips over like, ah!
You know footage is good when the second cameraman comes back and goes to both shops and goes, "You got to see this footage." It shows you Corey
The best part was is we'd get the car perfectly balanced where Grant and I could just like lean forward and we'd start going, we'd kick back, bring the car back to level.
Yeah, and it was right just on the edge too, and you're rocking back and forth and just trying to see what the bird does. And you guys had sandbags, right? You were using sandbags too, and live birds, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, a lot of live birds. So dead.
You'll figure it out later.
We didn't kill.
We did not kill them. No.
We injured during the making of this episode.
Except for those
Except for
two.
Mythbusters.
Yeah.
No birds or coyotes were hurt.
No.
Here's another one that people saw in the clip, and again, this flashed by very quickly, so you might not have realized what it was that you were looking at. But remember, there was a couple shots in there of the motorcycle with that weird housing around.
Yeah.
Okay, the myth is: are motorcycles better for the environment than cars because of lower fuel efficiency? Jane.
Higher fuel efficiency. Yeah,
They use higher fuel
Yeah,
efficiency.
they use less fuel, and it goes to logic that if they use less fuel, there's less pollution that's going to come out the other end. And so we have to test that because what makes it kind of complicated is that motorcycles don't have the same kinds of emission controls as cars do, and so it's not exactly clear cut. In fact, it's really not clear cut, and we try to suss all that out. It's a lot of fun.
Because that's the thing that the cycling people say, right? That, your motorcycle's better for the environment than your car.
There's a lot of people who traded their cars for motorcycles because they think it's better for the environment.
Right.
This episode actually includes, I think, look, I mean, how many people out there yelled at us at the TV for not having enough data to make our conclusion? A fair number, I think. This actually is some of the most complicated data we've ever crunched on the show.
And even so, it depends on what you're looking at as an emission. I mean, there are things like CO2, which has its own set of problems, but then there are toxins and other things that come out of engines. So, when you get into the details, it actually gets really interesting, and it's not black and white, that's for sure.
I'll also add, actually, that the data we came up with was good enough that I believe it's going to be part of a published paper on the subject. One of 2 episodes this season that are going to be part of published papers. We're starting to increase our ability to produce actual scientific data.
The other one is what?
The other one would be, there's a thing about, manhole covers going skyward due to methane explosions in the sewer. Yeah. And this gets real exciting because a thing that we didn't know before we got into this was that methane, as is the case with a lot of flammable gases, not only is capable of burning, it's capable of detonating. And that means that the shock wave that it's created along with the burn goes supersonic. And it's not all that easy to achieve, but that's what we try to do. Of course. And if you get a detonation, the manhole covers, of course, go really, really high.
And I'm guessing that in American universities they don't test that often.
No, they do small-scale experiments, and that's why we actually involved experts at what was it, Cal State? Right?
I think so. Yeah, nobody had ever run a test this large on this exact type of gas propagation, explosion, deflagration, etc.
Yeah, they do it in little scale experiments. We did it like way out in the desert because the equivalent amount of energy from this would have been around 40 pounds of high explosives.
Are you sensing that they want to see things blown up?
You're in luck this season. Let's just say that.
I think they got that from the reel. I think they realized that. This next myth comes up so often. I'm surprised there's not a government agency that does this. But can you use duct tape to fix a plane that has been mauled by a bear? How many times have you guys seen that in your own lives? I mean, your plane's been mauled by a bear, and you're wondering about that.
Fracking bears.
Should have seen carry. She had these big giant claws. She was probably the craziest bear I've ever seen.
And we live in San Francisco.
Wolverine.
Ask your parents.
But yeah, so we ripped up a plane, and then it comes from a story of a guy who was in Alaska and had some fish in his plane. The bear smells the fish, rips open the plane to get it, and then the guy comes back and, oh no, what am I going to do? All I've got is a roll of duct tape.
All you need in most situations.
Duct tape can pretty much fix anything, but this was like the first time. Yeah, your car.
Right.
This is the first time that we've ever really put duct tape to that much, that dangerous of a situation where it's like, if it comes apart, this plane is going to crash. And we had an actual pilot who was going to fly this thing.
A professional.
Can't tell you if he's still around.
Yeah, but it's a test pilot, so he flies experimental aircraft as a living. So
he's only willing to go as high as he is willing to crash.
The lesson I think you should take.
You know, people who've watched Mythbusters for a while know about the wonders of duct tape, but there's some questions about duct tape. Could you use duct tape to build a tent, make clothing, craft a fishing net, or build a raft?
Well,
raft they've done.
We had a story planning meeting about 3 months ago, and we know we want to do, we're going to do as many hours on duct tape as we can. I saw some really nice duct tape workout on the floor over the last couple of days. And as we took the last 2 duct tape hours and we started writing out all of the things that we've done with duct tape, the things we've built, what we thought worked, what we thought didn't work, how we thought the episodes went, and we just started brainstorming on what to do, what's spectacular. And then I started writing a list of words. What does duct tape do? And I wrote fix, repair, and then I wrote rescue. And like a single mind, everyone in the room started riffing on this idea of using duct tape. Suppose you got stranded on a desert island, and all you have is a pallet of duct tape. So in a couple of months, we're going to go to Hawaii. And we're going to do Castaway with duct tape. The duct tape desert island escape. Exactly.
Yeah, a good reality show. I mean.
First, go tag the others, then.
And here's another one I wanted to hit, and I think, Tori, this is yours. Can truck bed liners stop an animal attack?
Yeah, when we were trying to see, there's the truck liner that goes inside of a bed of a truck. They claim that this stuff is indestructible. So we're like, okay, let's put this to the test. Let's get some of this stuff. We put it up against an attack dog. We put it up against car crashing, and we also went to see if it was blast proof. And I have to say, I'm not going to tell you what we came away, what our conclusions were, but this stuff is tough stuff.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. And let's just say we got to crash the cars. We were actual crash test dummies.
Yeah, in the cars. That was actually the first time, we say we put our bodies on the line for science. This is actually the first time I have felt like a crash test dummy. Now I know what Buster feels like.